IKEA. Hi, Pam.
Recording in progress.
Pam, are we expecting? Here she is.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Everyone getting ready for the holidays or
No.
going through the holidays?
Mine got canceled because I had a kid with COVID.
Oh no.
A grandson
Everyone's
with
getting
COVID. So
COVID
we're doing
again.
Christmas in January.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, having a quorum, let's get started. Stasha? There we are. Ed?
Hello?
Hi. You're going incognito or?
Well, you gotta get that camera
He's
going.
looking,
There we go.
Can you
Ooh,
guys hear me okay?
yep.
Awesome.
would you like a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes?
Yes, I would.
I so move.
I'll
Second.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'm just abstaining since I wasn't there.
Okay. But hopefully you read Ken's continuously excellent meeting minutes. Okay, moving on to where we are with the Conveo website and moving information over to the town website and visibility and public awareness of that change. So Pam, can you elucidate us on that?
Sure. I moved the Google Drive over from your personal Gmail account to the town's and provided everyone with a link. Hopefully that worked and everyone can access the documents under the new website. I also went through the master plan website. I'm not very familiar with the new the online platform, but I tried to take away some older documents and then put more relevant documents, existing conditions, and draft goal comments under news and updates and try it so it could be easily accessible. So I don't think there's any more traces to the Conveo website. I think all the links are updated and the current documents are on the left-hand column and the green links.
Okay. And hopping down to the bottom, out of order. I had a conversation with Kristen about write-ups that we need to put together informing people about current situations, basically informing the public, because certainly the feedback I got from a number of things, not the least of which was the forum, is that people are making comments that do not reflect that they understand what's going on. They don't have the context in order to provide knowledgeable and informed comments. So the first thing she asked me to do was consolidate into a reasonably short document the water and sewer, since that seems to be a fairly significant thing, and I've started working on that. But I think there are other things that we can do as well. Housing obviously is very, very important, and there's a lot of visibility. Economic development is important, and there's a fair amount of visibility there. So are there other things that people feel at this point are high priority items for which we need to provide, at least on I wouldn't say a superficial level, but at a reasonably high level, information to the residents of the town?
I'm not sure, but maybe transportation.
Yep.
And I would think municipal facilities. I don't see how you
Okay.
can not look at that one.
Okay, so can we have some candidates to put together, in each case, a write-up that doesn't exceed a page? And then we can look at those and start looking at the best way to present those in something that Kristen can use on Facebook, but needs obviously at the same time to be on the website so that we can direct people to that. Or maybe a short form on Facebook and possibly Instagram, the way we did it 2 years ago, that gives people a link and a vector to the town website to see the greater detail. As I work in other areas, I've discovered that Instagram, frankly, is more popular than Facebook.
Yeah.
The
Particularly
kids
with,
don't even look at Facebook anymore, Bob.
no, I know.
Right.
You know?
But,
I'll do municipal facilities.
I'll obviously do housing.
okay. Brian,
Sorry, yeah, I just had a question. I want to make sure I understand what the objective is here. So it sounded like you were saying we want to provide information almost, and maybe I was mishearing, but information that gives people enough background or context so that when they do offer input to the plan process, it's armed input.
yes,
So, so I have a comment and then I guess a suggestion. My comment is that, like, although I agree with the impulse, I'm really not sure that we're going to reach anybody beyond the usual suspects with that sort of a work product. I don't know. I would be interested in, feel free to push back, but what I'm concerned is that if we just frame it as like a background thing, the same old people who, I don't mean old people, but the same usual suspects who read the stuff we've been producing are going to be the ones that read that. So one alternative would be to maybe in each of the areas you defined, give a preview of like where we think the main recommendations are headed in the master plan, to essentially like give folks a heads up about these are the things that we think you can expect to be learning in the final version. That's one alternative. I don't know what people think of that.
I agree. I'm kind of cynical about who the real audience is. I do feel it's the usual cast of characters, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Ed's right. I think they're both right.
so
Gotta do something
how do
different.
we, I mean, again, how do we communicate with beyond the usual cast of characters, regardless of the message?
Boy.
So,
Anybody anymore?
Yeah, Stasha.
so I envisioned it to be more kind of because it's only one page, a springboard, where for housing, for example, would have, you know, right off the bat a link to maybe the presentation from last year, or actually now it's 2 years old, so maybe not, but it's something that gives, you know, a link to information elsewhere kind of thing. The like the housing production plan, you know, if you want information on this stuff, here you go. But it's a really quick resource for that. Like, here's all of the stuff ready to go. But did you know we've got a, you know, 200 and something unit housing development going in soon? And did you know this is, you know, facts. There's some of the stuff that's come out of the community survey, the census data, which I know has been presented before, but maybe, you know, it's in one page on a digital site. So now that's your focal point. You know, here's the, like you said, the things that you're going to address in the master plan. Here's some of the goings on around housing. Here's more information. Here's the I'm thinking of, Mary was saying transportation. Here's the links to the transportation studies that were being done, things like that. Like, and without crowding the one page, make it a springboard for all that other information, with the highlights being, you know, here's the, I don't know if you want to call them conflicts, but here's kind of the here and now. This is where we feel like we're going, but very, very high level. And here's the links if you want to know more.
Well, Brian, do you want to comment on that?
No, that actually sounds great. I'm thinking like if we just had a very standard template based on kind of what you just described, Stasha, then I think we could easily create those for each of the topics, sort of like, you know, I think probably at the bottom would be like links of interest, right? So if you want to learn more, it's an easy place to find all the links to other reports that have already been done. But then just kind of the top is teeing up stuff that's going on and likely topics that are going to be recommended as part of the master plan.
So
Exactly.
going back to your original suggestion, Brian, it seems to me that we need to get people's attention by saying, this is the goal, and here's some background, and give them the opportunity to, without just jumping in and coming in on the goal, like probably ought to go read the background a little bit and come back with a slightly more informed set of comments on the goal, sort of a two-part thing. Goal up on top, and here's some background you ought to think about if you're going to comment on it. Gia?
I think you're, I mean, if you want the people who don't know what they're talking about to understand more, these are not the kind of people who are going to go click on links and read reports. So it might be good if we could find a way in this little page to put it right up front, what the perceptions are. I mean, what is it that we're finding that people are so uneducated about that it's bugging us and it's going to hinder how they view the master plan? And maybe we address that right up front as, here's our situation and here's the predicament Bolton is in. And our goals are leaning this way. And the reason we don't have it that way is because blah, blah, blah. I mean, do you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, give me an example of what you were picking up on that the people didn't know enough about. And then address that to them right up front. So they don't have to go digging and reading all these reports to find out how just to get up to minimal level of understanding.
Assuming they would.
Assuming
If you want to start with,
I think he is right. Yeah, if there's negative comments being made, try to educate the uneducated. Maybe
But the elephant
the
in the room is the thing that they're really concerned about, beyond knowing anything about town government or how this town runs, is their effect on their pocketbook.
Mhm.
And we can't run away from that one because that's what's going to grab their interest.
right, but
Not
let's
because
explain
they
it
want to hear
right up
about.
front.
Huh?
Explain it right up front. I mean, the
Yeah.
number one thing we say is this is a very small town. I mean, we have very few residents compared to other towns. We're one of the smallest towns, and we value that. Most people who move here because it's a small town.
Right.
Okay, so right there, you have to say, small towns are going to permanently be having financial pressure. And this is the way we try to mitigate it, or this is what we're working on to mitigate it. But, you're right. It's the elephant in the room. For people who don't understand what it means to live in a small town, it means you are paying for a lot and costs are not shared because there aren't enough households to share it.
well, it's shared, but among a small group of households. But how can we, going back to Brian's original comment about, can we put the goals out there? And then I think that evolved into, well, what has the reaction been to those goals? And then beyond that, and here is some, fairly high level background, perhaps with links that explains why the goal is what it is. So you have 3 levels: goal, reaction, background.
Have the goals been put out there to get negative comments? We haven't publicized them really.
I think they were put up on the Conveo, during the public forum. I put all those public forum materials up in case people couldn't attend. But everything got pulled, so maybe those should be posted up on the town website in the meantime.
I'm just wondering what the negative input you're getting is, because, and where it's coming from. Are people just personally contacting you?
Is this from the forum, the kind of feedback we got from folks there and
Yeah, it was
more
mostly.
Yeah, I
misinformed?
understand that, but I didn't get any negative feedback about why we're doing certain things or have certain goals on the list. We use that to formulate the goals and kind of expand on what we had as drafts and presented at the meeting. I'm not really clear on where the negative comments are coming from or what they're regarding.
Mm.
I'm not sure, well, I think you've got to explain, first of all, that the goals came to a large degree out of the comments, right?
Right.
Okay, and that's how it all started. And then we took what we thought were the goals based on the comments, and we asked people to comment on them. And a number of comments that were made, at least the ones that I heard, reflected the fact that people really didn't understand how the goals had been put together, and what the current situation is like. And I think that's where we need to get at it. Otherwise,
So
just throwing goals out there, I think that's not
So
going to.
I guess, so you think we need to better explain how the goals were developed and not necessarily defend the individual goals themselves?
Well, I think both of the above. I think, we came up with goals and there was rationale for those goals. And I think we could do a better job of explaining it so that people just don't throw mud at the goals. They understand how they came about in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be done, I think, at a pretty high level from what I was hearing. It's not that they didn't understand the details. They didn't understand some stuff way above the details.
Okay. I understand a little better now. Yeah.
Do we have any sense of numbers? Who cares in Bolton? 20 people, 50 people, 100 people? I mean, call me the cynic. I just
Well,
get
but Dad, you got to look at it a different way. I don't think it's that people don't care. I think part of me says maybe people actually trust us to do this well. And so they've got a lot on their plates and they're saying, these people have been around town for a long time. These people are board members. These people are in it. So you know what? And I have to be careful because when I feel like I want to say that, I'm like, I'm not that powerful. I'm not that smart. Don't give me that much pressure, right? But it goes both ways, right? I don't think it's that they don't care. I think it's just that maybe it's not the top priority. Maybe they trust us to make good decisions. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but.
Yes, there's a certain amount of that. But I think at the same time, when we finally come out with a master plan with specific goals and resultant implementation recommendations, that we need to let people know about what the process was, give them a fairly high level look at it so that they don't come back after the fact, as has happened more than once in this town, with saying, it's all been done behind closed doors, and bang, we're suddenly hit with this master plan that we really didn't understand and had no input to it. And there'll always be some of that. I don't think there's any question. But
Olivia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there typically a narrative in the implementation chapter that explains how the committee went through obtaining all the goals and the forums and the surveys and
all of that will be included in the master plan itself. And we've started drafting some of the sections, and even in the introduction, I laid out all of the plans that have been in the town in the past 15 years, and I put a description of every plan. And I think, we want people to be informed, but asking them to, step into a planner's role and really think critically, I think is asking too much of people sometimes, because it is a lot of work and a lot of information. And I think we can provide a concise way that informs people of, how we got to these goals without writing the master plan before we're done writing the master plan, it seems like all of these things kind of culminate into the plan. So I don't want to make too much work for you guys is what I'm saying, because that will all be in the plan.
I understand that and really appreciate it, but I don't want to be in the position of issuing a master plan and suddenly being held accountable for doing it without explaining what was behind it during the process. And we've tried to do that, but we've done it. I think we have to do it better. And I think Brian's suggestion of, let's take a goal and let's provide the opportunity for an explanation of how we got to that goal fairly simply, perhaps with links to more specific information, so that people can look at the goal, but they can do it in context. They have some background. And so you hit them with a goal and they say, oh, horrors, that's really great. Hopefully a little more of the latter than the former. And then they go back and take a look at, gee, this is where it came from. I understand better, but it's pre-selling the plan. I think that's
Right.
kind of how I see it.
Support.
Brian?
That sounds good. I was actually gonna ask Stasha a question because I kind of like the way that you had explained the content as you saw it. So I'm wondering, well, first of all, I don't know what the timeline is for creating these short one-pagers.
Quick.
But I don't know if it would make sense, maybe like Stasha, if you and I wanted to just work together to put together an example of what we have in mind and then circulate that and see if it serves the purpose. Maybe we could do two of them, like we could do a housing one and a municipal facilities one, something like that, and just see if we're getting at an idea that everybody can get behind.
Yeah, that sounds
like a
great.
plan.
We did one-page fact sheets with something similar for a previous master plan I worked on that was visual in nature. It was almost like a poster board. And I can send you those if you'd be interested in kind of viewing what information they had and see if we can relate it to this
Yeah, that'd be
master
great.
plan.
That'd be
Thank you.
useful.
Thank you. Sorry, I totally volunteered you and Sasha.
Oh no, I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so you're gonna look at the two issues of housing and municipal facilities?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
And Brian stuck with Sasha and myself? Or is someone else going to do municipal facilities? Because I don't have to.
No, I
I
thought
can
you
do
would-
one of them.
So Penny had offered to do municipal facilities. So Brian, maybe we just pick another one so that we're getting them. If Penny, if you prefer to do municipal facilities,
Oh, I'll do it
I'm
with
thinking-
Brian because he writes much better than I do.
Well, I
Okay.
think, yeah, why don't we just we can work together just to get like two examples, because I think we want to make sure everybody agrees with the
Yeah.
approach being
The
taken,
format too, yeah.
and then we can go from there. So Penny, you and I can work on the municipal facilities one, and
Okay,
Sasha
and
can work on the housing one.
Pam, you and Sasha are going to work on the other one, or do you want to work with?
Sure.
Yeah, no, I have like so much housing stuff on my computer. So like it's
She's
just
the
a matter of
housing
me pulling it
maven.
together.
Yeah, she's the housing maven.
So just, it's a little insane, but I'll try to put it onto one page. We'll see how that goes.
What can we do in the way of schedule on this?
It will
Well,
be
it is
very difficult
Christmas
for
this
me
week,
to
Robert.
Yeah, oh,
work
that's
on
right.
it before the new year.
Yeah,
I'm actually
I
out
think-
next week.
well, that's okay. That's civilized.
That, yeah.
I think we should eliminate next week and do it the end of the first week in January, whenever that is.
Okay.
Okay,
Gives you enough time. I mean, you really need time to spend time with
I
your
get it.
family on the holidays.
well, and what I'm interested in addition to that, is how we publicize that, which gets to Kristen, and what we can do to highlight that, certainly on Facebook, if not Instagram, and start people looking at it. But that needs to be thought through as well. So we spend a lot of time producing information, and then there's no way to publicize it.
My concern has been from the get-go over the last 2 years is the lack of interest of people in this town to understand how the town functioned and what the town does. It's like they don't seem to be terribly, they move here, everything runs fine. They have people picking, they have the police, they have the DPW, everybody functions. But they don't seem terribly interested in it. I mean, just looking at how many people volunteer for boards and that kind of stuff. And I don't know how you generate that interest. It's very different from it was 40 years ago, or 30 years ago, or even 20 years ago. I think people are just incredibly busy, or they just care.
If
I
they
don't
came
know.
from a
I haven't
county
figured this
government,
one out. It bothers me. I haven't figured it out.
if they came from a county government environment, there is nothing personal. There's a board of supervisors and they do
Yeah.
what they do. And the public can attend meetings, but they're basically not going to get heard with any significance. And this is a shock to come to New England and have this thing called a town meeting.
Do you
So we
think that's
struggle
part
even
of it?
with
Is the people moving in or from
I do.
big cities? And
I do.
It's a good point, Ed.
I mean, I lived in Virginia. Jeez, there's no government down there that you're going to attend. The board of supervisors runs everything. It's kind of with an iron hand. It's very difficult to get a voice into something like that.
Okay,
So
but what
don't
about
you
the
think
people that
Brian
can?
runs the town with an iron hand?
Sure. No, he's a good guy. He's not on the board of supervisors.
No, he's just a selectman.
Right.
So would it be too much for me to ask that maybe we get these pages done, the Brian, Penny and I pages by January 8th? It's a Monday, but it would give me a weekend to work on it that I don't
Gotcha,
really have
Sasha.
until then. That's okay. Okay, cool. I needed a date. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, now, when you do get those are going to be emailed off to everybody on the steering committee and Pam and Olivia, Heather, and then we decide we have to get back together and talk about it. I don't think we can resolve it by
Oh,
by email at all. I'm going to go instead and propose something else too that'll be painful. Okay, so you're going to finish that. Both papers, they're going to be distributed on the 8th or very shortly thereafter. And then we get back together and have a meeting to discuss that and make sure that we're all in agreement and parse out additional topics to replicate at least the style and the content of whatever you guys have come up with. Sound good?
sounds reasonable.
So
Let's establish a meeting date then that doesn't conflict with the select board.
Our regular meeting is January 18th. That would be the third Thursday.
Yeah,
That is preferred for me.
okay. Is there, I hate to say this, but is there something we can do between the 8th and the 18th? No? Okay, thanks, Brian.
We have a select board meeting on the 11th, and then the 18th is the Thursday after that, so.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay, and that, at this point, I think that certainly identifies some things that the MPSC members can do. I want to get at the implementation matrix. It came out this morning. I went through it. It's more red than black now. And I think a lot of it reflects a lack of in-depth understanding of what's happening in Bolton right now that isn't very visible. You've got to be part of it to know what's going on.
Mhm.
So I would have two recommendations. First of all, that we get together, dare I say, not on Zoom. I really like getting a group of people in a room and going through a document like this and having interaction and discuss as a group what the comments ought to be, rather than try to take a whole bunch of disembodied comments and try to consolidate them. It's best done across a table or around a table. It takes a long time, but it's, I think, substantially more productive than trying to have Olivia or Heather or anybody else take a whole bunch of comments and try to consolidate them, or even one of us to try to consolidate those comments without discussions and more questions. So, I would propose after 2.5 long years that we finally get back together physically for a meeting to walk through the implementation matrix. So that's one recommendation. The second recommendation is, I know, because I've dealt with a lot of this, that a number of these things are underway or have impediments that make them, frankly, at this point, very difficult to do. And in some cases, frankly, don't really apply to Bolton. I know they're good general recommendations. And they have not reflected the input from the town departments. They really have been isolated from much of this process unless we individually have talked to them. So I would secondly recommend that we talk individually to the head of departments and walk through the recommendations and get their feedback, first of all, on background that we may not know about. You can't know everything, and there's a lot going on even in this little town, and has over the last few years, certainly since 2006, and get feedback.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is absolutely, it's been characterized correctly. It's everything but the kitchen sink. But I figured better to include it and have you guys say, oh, this is happening, this doesn't work, this isn't fitting anymore, and kind of go from there. But to have everything down on paper, and give you an idea of the formatting and kind of the direction of certain goals and things that we've been thinking about. But yeah, I think your local context will definitely be helpful. And I would be interested to maybe attend that meeting with you guys if
That's
you have
fine.
me there. And then Heather and I were also planning to have those individual meetings with town staff in probably the end of January, maybe, yeah, hopefully the end of January. It's really hard this time of year, but we wanted to get something kind of drafted for the implementation matrix so we could kind of send it to those folks first and then come up with some questions to ask them and get their perspective on certain topics that kind of fall under their expertise. But yeah, that was just kind of our initial pass at it.
Brian?
Yeah, so just wanted to throw an idea out about like process for how we could approach this. So it sounded like Olivia was saying that there are plans for their team, and I don't know if Pam would be involved in this also, to get input directly from department heads on elements of the, okay, so maybe, and it sounded like Bob, you said you went through and marked it up. I don't know if you did that manually because I'm not seeing any edits.
No. It's, yeah, I
Oh,
did track changes on it.
Oh,
Okay, so because at least in the version that I just put in the chat, which is like a Google Docs version, I'm not seeing any edits. But what I was going to say, Bob, was that I know we're not supposed to like deliberate in a document doing serial comments, but I do think if you're willing to share your version with all of your comments with the rest of us, because I'm sure you've covered a lot of good stuff, and then we all review, and at the meeting on the 18th, we're able to like either add additional ones or say, yeah, we agree with what Bob said here, then maybe that in parallel with Olivia's team and Pam meeting with department heads at the end of the month would put us in a really good position by February to have like, I would think we would have arrived at a draft that incorporates a lot of good feedback by then. I mean, just an idea.
No, that's a good idea. The one thing I think is very important, though, is that the steering committee be involved in the conversations with department heads. No, it's great to have a consultant come in and the town planner come in, but really, the steering committee needs to hear it, needs to be involved, and needs to, be able to understand the context of the conversations.
And I think you really have to understand who has responsibility for what things and what they're involved in and how that involvement overlaps with other departments. And so sort of inviting them to come in and tell us what you do kind of thing isn't going to work. You really have to get it down more. You've got to show them what we've got and then say, what here is jumping out at you and making you cringe.
Right.
Well, they've got to
was
look at the
going through it.
implementation matrix.
Huh?
They need to look at the goals and the
Yeah,
implementation.
absolutely. Because there are things in here that some of them will say this is absolutely wrong. And other ones would say, well, you're sort of there, but you're not quite there.
Well,
So,
and I think my concern is that a lot of them are underway already. And we need to put the comments and the recommendations in the appropriate context.
Mary?
Mary?
So I just want to be corrected on this. So for transportation, Randy Heglin is part of the task group, and I keep him up to date on, what is being issued through this this committee. And I was going to send him this implementation plan for his comments. Now, should I not do that and have you do it instead, Pam, or whoever is going to be reaching out
Mary,
to department heads?
I'm sorry. Olivia and I had already discussed this. We wanted to get feedback from the committee on the implementation table. Then we're going to highlight the relevant existing conditions report for the relevant department head, along with the relevant implementation table, and sit down with each relevant department staff and go over the documents and get their feedback.
Okay.
See what we missed, what they think is off base, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fine tuning, especially if you take a look at like the headers, we wanted to be able to fill out some of the priorities and who would be involved with that and make sure that we're giving them more context than just like goals on a page. Sorry, Pam.
But they've got to look at the whole thing. I mean, you can't partition this into, individual departments. They need to understand what's being said about other goals and how it may impact their department. Even if we haven't indicated they would have a role, they may determine, excuse me, we have a role, or no, that's not really.
Because it's a small town, roles overlap between departments.
In a big town, they do as well. And
the police and the fire and the DPW work together on a bunch of stuff.
Right.
And they overlap. So you can't sort of say, well, this is your job and this is yours.
No, but I think we have a good handle on who does what. But I also don't think they're going to go through 200 pages of information. So we're going to, all the documents will be available to everyone, and we're going to highlight specific things.
Okay.
I think
I'm not sure I understand that, Pam. You're going to highlight.
Well, the whole report will be made
appropriate.
available for their review, but obviously DPW is going to pay attention to transportation and roads and that type of thing, even though there are some other things in there that would be relevant to their job responsibilities.
But they'll be aware of that,
give them
right?
this?
Right. No, we're going to do more than just send them the table. They'll get the table, but we're going to highlight the existing conditions too. We want to make sure we've captured all the studies and information that they work from within their departments.
And the public perspective as well, that I think is important for them to see. So they that.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that popped up to me, and it's been discussed in the past, is the emergency management plan, which again has precious little visibility in the town, but is pretty robust. And
you do know there is an emergency management plan in the town.
Pretty good one, actually. But it's not the sort of thing that for security reasons, is going to be distributed. It's summarized at a very high level.
Mhm.
But again, a number of people are involved in that. The fire chief, the police chief, the DPW, and others. So that's something that a number of people need to get their heads around and provide background. And again, you're not, in some cases, going to be able to lay out everything, but the recommendations and the implementation plan have to be realistic and recognize what's going on and who's handling it. And I think that's what you'll get out of those meetings. Sometimes somewhat surprising. And as Penny said, it goes across multiple departments in a number of cases. And the risk mitigation, I mean, again, it was done from a climate change perspective by Rebecca and her team, but it applies to a large number of people.
How long are you looking to have these meetings with department heads?
I think initially Heather and I kind of were hoping to do one day in person in Bolton and meet with folks, and then if people weren't available, we could do a day online, or if there was a big demand to meet,
Well, I know,
then
but
we
how
could
much
come
were you
back
thinking
again.
with each individual department head?
Oh, around like an hour maybe. But obviously with time in between in case those, went over, but give them the materials in advance and then have some additional questions and things we would want their input on in person, but give them sufficient time to look at the implementation matrix.
And then
Okay.
I would assume there, if they had any outstanding questions after both receiving the information and having an interview with you, that they would get back and provide additional clarification. And you're saying that you're going to try to do that in mid to late January? And
Yeah, I
continue?
think, yeah, wanted to do it a little earlier, but then the holidays and everything get away from us. So I was, yeah, thinking probably the end of January if people are around. So I can try to organize that with Pam, or if, yeah, Bob, you mentioned that you guys might want to be involved as well, so we can
Yeah,
coordinate.
I'd be interested in
Yeah.
sitting in and listening as much for
Yeah.
education as anything else.
So would I, because I'm on I know them fairly well, so.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Pam, Olivia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob, quick
Good.
question.
I'm sorry.
Quick question.
Yep.
The meeting on I believe it was the 18th, right? Is that the meeting you want to have in person?
Yeah, if we could do it. And we can, Pam, are people meeting in person these days?
Elsewhere, yes. I don't know of too many Bolton committees or boards that are meeting in person.
Parks and Rec is actually meeting in person.
Are you?
Oh, good for you.
During
Okay,
the
so why
day,
don't
right,
we,
Ed?
let's do it in person.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
just
that's-
getting tired of looking at this screen.
Okay.
I mean, with the Houghton's building's big enough, as long as the room's not being used, it shouldn't
Perfect.
be a problem.
Perfect.
Yeah,
The Houghton building, you want?
Yeah.
yeah, the back room at the Houghton building,
Okay.
the Lois Alex room.
The Lois Alex room.
And so this will be a working group that Olivia doesn't need to attend, or
I think it would be educational for Olivia to be
Yeah,
part of it.
I would be interested
Yeah,
in
I think
attending, I
so.
think. Especially since you guys know all the current ongoings in town, and I think that would be helpful for me since some of those things I'm not totally up to date on.
All right.
Okay, so the way over and above what Stasha and Brian and Penny are going to pull together and get out, as close as they can to the 8th, then I will upload all of my comments, which unfortunately are in change tracking. Well, what I can do is I can pull down
Robert,
The-
if you would put all your comments, why don't you let everybody else comment too before they see yours? I'm just wondering.
No, I
if
think Brian's, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question.
It's not that I don't think you're absolutely right. I just think it's
No,
gonna-
I'm often very wrong.
No, you may be leading people to different ways that they're thinking, and I'd rather have it right off the cuff from them.
I'm gonna disagree, Penny, and
Yeah.
here's why.
You are.
Well, yeah, no, here's why. So Bob sits on the planning board, and I just have to say, I feel like there's just a lot more that they see and that Pam sees that I may not even like know right now. So I think it may be more efficient, honestly, than having everybody try to like imagine what Bob knows that they don't. I'm just being very self-interested.
That's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but I think to Brian's point, if I put something up and people commented on, they're going to read what I wrote, and then they're going to react to it, and it gets mighty close to deliberation.
Yeah, so the suggestion would be we don't do that in the document, but we bring that to the meeting on the 18th.
Oh, so what you're suggesting is I put mine up, and then other people privately do theirs, and then we all discuss it on the 18th? That
Yes.
sounds good.
Sounds legal.
We deliberate appropriately.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll do that. And Pam, what I'll do, make my life a little easier. If I can delete the file that you have up there and replace it with mine with the comments on it, does that work for you?
No, that has Olivia and my comments and questions on it, so I'd rather you not delete it, but maybe save one with your initials on it.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
Good idea. Yep.
Yeah, there's some good comments on there from Pam that gotta take a look at.
Okay, I think we have a plan.
I think
Will
we
you
do.
push that out to us when you get it or when it's ready?
So you can reflect on what I said?
Well, no,
Okay.
meaning honestly, because if I'm like, I'm not 100% great at like going and finding documents in that Dropbox or wherever it is now. And I want to make sure I don't miss an action is
It's not
basically why I'm
Dropbox.
asking.
I think someone made
exactly.
an
See?
implementation folder, which is helpful. So if you go right into the Bolton Master Plan Drive, there's a folder at the top that says implementation. So it's right in there, which is helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just think it's a great way to make comments. Unfortunately, in many respects in government, it constitutes deliberation, though, if you see other people's comments and comment on them. In any case, Brian's point is well taken.
In less than a quorum?
I'm sorry, Ed?
In less than a quorum?
I think that would be stretching it really if you see everybody
I
else's
think you're
comments
picking at
and-
it, Ed.
Yeah, I think you're pushing it.
Trying to get things done, right?
No, I know. But it's really, really hard while running if you get tripped and land on your face.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? I think we've covered it. Ken, despite the fact that he is off being a musician, is going to do the notes again.
Okay.
Brian?
Send him what I've got too.
I just wanted to say thanks to Pam and Olivia for joining us right before the holidays.
No problem.
Hope everybody has a
It's-
great start to the new year.
Indeed.
Relaxes for the next week.
It's
Right.
nice of everyone to
Yes.
We
give
don't
their
know how.
time this time of year. It's very busy.
How.
Well, it looks like we're not going to be shoveling snow, so at least that's a positive.
That's true.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Oh,
you, guys.
motion
What
to
a mo-
adjourn.
Yeah, do you motion to adjourn?
All
Oh,
right.
yeah, I'm sorry.
I made a motion. Who wants to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Okay.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, guys.
Happy holidays.
good night.
Bye now.
Aye.
Night.